Hello, everybody. My name is John Lewis. I'm a registered nurse. Actually, I can say that now, so that's cool. And today I'm going to discuss 5 tips for studying in class and 5 tips for studying for the NCLEX. I'm not going to get, I'm not going to always be recording my car. It's just like right now I don't have a setup in my house that's like that good. And it seems that I'm finding a lot of time in my car to record videos. So that's what I'm doing. So anyway, I do want to say a little disclaimer, like, this is my way of studying. It definitely might not work for everybody, but I feel it's good to get a lot of different viewpoints on ways to study, and then that way you can figure out your own way to figure things out. So we'll start with number 1. I'm going to say this, and a lot of people aren't going to like it because a lot of people hate doing it, but for studying in class, you need to read the book. I know it's boring, it's a lot of pages, it's a lot of work, but it's just something that's really important to do. And something that I learned in my Anatomy and Physiology 2 class is that if you read the book, even if you don't understand the information completely, if you have that introduction to it, then when you go to class, it's like a reinforcement of that, and maybe you might get that little click moment where you start understanding the material a little bit better. So that's what I try to do. I tried to read before class. Now, we all know that's impossible a lot of times because sometimes you have tests, and honestly, I'm not going to read the book before tests. So usually I was reading the book after class in the later parts of the semester. So it's okay to do it that way too. It's just that secondary reinforcement between class and the book, so you get exposure to the material. So I'd say that's number 1, read the book. Number 2, don't try to write everything down. In class, I see a lot of people just writing a lot of stuff down. They always are trying to take every little word that the teacher says, and it's just, I feel it's pointless because these people are writing 10, 20 pages of notes, and then they got like 30, 40 pages in the book. It's impossible to study that many things at one time. So I just try to write the important things down. So we're going to say specific definitions that the instructor might say, or if there's like lab values or anything that's important that you really need to know. Because also if you write everything down, you might get minute details that are very obscure, and you don't need to know it for a test, because testing in general is going to be over what the average nurse needs to know. Now, of course, when you go into the body systems, it might get more detailed, but in general, testing is going to be about what the average nurse needs to know, not the in-depth that the nurse works in the specific department needs to know. And so number 3, find a good testing resource. What I mean is find a good testing resource where you could answer a bunch of questions and that has really good rationales. Typically, books that I see have some type of study guide that you can get with them. So I would say look into that. Sometimes also, if you don't have the money, because we all know it's expensive nursing school in general, then the books are like $100, $200 easy. So definitely look at past editions for study guides, because even though they're an older edition, they're going to have pretty much the same information. Blood is blood. It doesn't change. So everything's going to stay the same. There may be minute differences in the books, but typically when I look from an old book to a new book, it's just going to be changes of page numbers and maybe some changing in grammar or wording, and maybe updates like Healthy People 2020 versus I think it was 2017 or whatever it was. And so that's what you're going to find. So find a good resource and answer those questions and read those rationales. Now, number 4, I would say, is make flashcards. And so what I did is I would make flashcards of things I need to know. And the way I do flashcards, I don't like to make super in detail flashcards, just because it can be kind of hard to learn every little thing. I try to keep it kind of broad. I try to keep it kind of short if it is more in-depth. I don't try to make a flashcard that has every line filled with material. Also, after you answer those questions, a lot of times what I focused my flashcards on was on the things that I missed. The reason I did that is because you want to focus on what you don't know, not what you do know. And what I mean by that is that you don't want to spend all your time focusing on things, reviewing things that you know really well. You want to focus your time on the things that you don't know well. And after some time, you can review the things that you know better, and then you can also you're of course going over that material that you don't know so well. So what I like to do, especially when it gets just before test time, is I make 3 piles with my flashcards. I go with what's right, what I get right, what I get wrong, and what I kind of get. So that way I can focus on those things that I don't know the most. And then in the middle, I have the things I kind of know. And then, of course, at the end, I have what I do know. And I just kind of look over those really quickly. And number five for studying class is give yourself some breaks. It's important to give yourself some breaks. I see people that study for hours and hours at a time, and I just feel like it's not it's not you just can't absorb that information. I did do tutoring as well, so that's another tip that I always gave my tutees is that you want to give yourself some breaks. You don't want to study for 6 hours at a time straight, because I find personally for me, if I go an hour and a half studying, I don't learn anything past that point. So I always stop at that point. I'll take a little break. A lot of times I end up watching some Netflix a little too much, but I typically, take a 15-minute break, take a 30-minute break, and then get back to it. So that's what I would do anytime I studied anything. I would take a little break, and then I would get back to it. And that way it just made me it just kept me from resetting my brain and not overloading it with so much information. And so I also never been studied, like stayed up till 4 in the morning to study. I feel that's another pointless venture. I'd rather sleep and then study in the morning just before the test. That's just for me. Some people can binge and do well. I mean, I maybe could have, but it's just I'd rather sleep. I mean, I'm not that great on sleep. I'm not like a lover of sleep, but I don't want to go into the test super tired and not having slept all night. Even though I did that for NCLEX. It wasn't that I was studying all night. It's just I couldn't sleep the night before. But that's another story. So that's a good segue into, next I'm going to go into my 5 tips for studying for NCLEX and what I did. So, number 1, questions. Questions. Honestly, between ATI and UWorld, I probably did 2,500 questions easily. But that's my best way to study is going through questions, going through rationales, and that way you can see the errors in your thinking on things. Now, as far as between ATI and UWorld, I preferred UWorld just because I feel like they had better rationales. But ATI was a good resource, just supplementary to use, because it's also just a bunch of questions. So while their rationales didn't seem as good all the time, it was still good to just challenge yourself with those questions. And a lot of times the rationales were good. It's just sometimes when it was like priority setting, they were kind of generic with their rationales. But that's another thing. Number 2 is kind of relates to something I talked about earlier. Don't do like 8 hours of questions, or 4 hours of questions and stuff like that. Honestly, for me, I never did more than probably 75 questions in a sitting, if that. When I was in UWorld, I would probably do 50 questions here. Sometimes I'd do 20 questions here, 10 questions here, 30 questions here, whatever. And I did something towards it like every single day. Sorry, I'm just reading kind of my notes here. I just want to make sure I say everything. So I just made sure I did something towards it every single day. And I only studied for about 3 weeks, and I did pass in 75 questions. So just do something towards it every day. Some days that was 10 questions, some days that was 100 questions. Especially closer to the test, it was definitely more like 130 questions. But just don't go crazy going like 4 hours, 5 hours straight doing questions, because again, like, as I said, with giving yourself breaks, you might not be retaining the information. And plus also your ability to answer the questions suffers. Because I noticed if I spent more than like an hour answering questions or 2 hours answering questions, or if I was tired, that my right answers were wrong, because I would get a lot of things wrong that I knew, just because I wouldn't read the question fully, or I miss a word here. And that's important, to make sure you read the questions thoroughly. I probably should put that as an answer, or one of my tips, but definitely make sure you read the questions thoroughly, because missing a word can make you miss the whole question. There's a lot of question breakdowns and stuff like that. You could probably find some real good videos on that. So number 3 would be flashcards again. At this point, you retain a good bit of information. You know more than you think you know. But some things you need to definitely hone in on. So my flashcards focus more on definitely definitions, focus more on lab values, and it focused on drugs and adverse effects. because those are really important to know for NCLEX. Those you'll definitely get a question on all three of those things. Of course, you get definitions. I mean, so especially the lab values and drugs and adverse effects, and because that's definitely something you're going to see on NCLEX for sure. Number 4 is YouTube. YouTube is actually a really great resource for class and for NCLEX, because there's so many videos out there that break down certain topics that you may not know that well. So, one of the big ones, I know our favorite country accent person, was a Nurse Life RN. She was really good. She breaks down things really well. I like the way she explained it. Some people didn't like her voice, but I like her voice. I thought it was nice. But I live in the South, so I'm kind of used to that, people speaking that way. So, but that's a good one. There's other ones out there. I just didn't use them as much. I did look at a site called ICU Advantage, but that kind of is more for people studying for CCRN. But it did help me understand some things even better. So that'd be my number 4. And my last tip for studying for NCLEX is kind of related to the same one for just studying for class, is give yourself some breaks and have some fun. You've graduated nursing school. You've accomplished something that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people wish they could have done. You've done something that's amazing. So it's good to just have some fun. And like I said, I did do something towards it every day, but that didn't mean I didn't go out and have fun, go out to eat, maybe that night go out to drink with friends. I just had some fun. Like, do something for yourself. You deserve it. You deserve to have some enjoyment. And just sitting there answering questions all the time, it's going to be boring. It's going to stress you out. Like, you need some stress relief in your life. Go do some hobbies. Like, you can study that day, and that night you can go to the bar or go out somewhere, do something. I like to play pool, or go bowling or something. Just find something to just relieve that stress. So anyway, those are going to be my 5 tips for studying in class and studying for NCLEX. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm trying to get more consistent with my uploads. Hey everyone, I just wanted to record a quick outro because I was editing the video and I realized I was kind of rambling at the end there, so it's not anything you guys need to hear. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. It definitely helps me out and lets me know if I'm going in the right direction as far as content on the channel. Also, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I'd be happy to go over them in the comments, or if it's something that I feel would be good for a video, I'll make a new video about that. But otherwise, I hope you have an amazing day.